Hi, I'm Jeff. This is Tropical Plants at 53 degrees north. So today we're talking about a very fragrant orchid. In fact, it's the most fragrant orchid I have, and it's currently in bloom. The name of this mystery orchid derives from the Greek word Encyclia, which I've probably butchered, which refers to the lateral lobes encircling the column. So that might be a clue. However, the name was recently-ish changed, and the new-ish name refers to an appendage which comes from the back of the column or protrudes from the back of the column. So it's sometimes now known as the appendage orchid. What am I talking about? Well, on my label it says Encyclia radiata, but I shall now be changing that to Prosthechea or Prosthechea, however you pronounce it, radiata. So why is it hard to kill? Well, let's find out. And we are in. Okay, so this particular genus of orchid, the Prosthechea or the Encyclia, whichever one you want to call it at this present time, both grow in the subtropical regions of the Americas. So we're talking places like the Caribbean, Mexico, Florida, those kind of areas. They grow in lowland forests up to between 1,000 to 2,000 meters, and these forests are very humid year round, but they're also very dry for many months of the year, especially during summer, which gives you a little bit of an indication about the care requirements of this fabulous plant. So here's the orchid in question. So I have it labelled as Encyclia radiata, but in doing the research I've since found out that it is now Prosthechea radiata, which is a completely different genus, but apparently the reclassification into the genus Prosthechea happened in the late 90s, I believe, and was based on DNA testing, so it can't be wrong, can it? So let's have a quick little look at it. I don't know if you can see these gorgeous blooms here, so I'm going to try and zoom in on them. I'll just hold them like that, and then I'll use a little bit of software to zoom in. So from where I'm standing here, the fragrance is absolutely wonderful. It reminds me of one of those gardenia plants. But of course, fragrance is subjective and some people are not so keen on it, but I absolutely love it, and it really does fill the greenhouse, especially when the sun's out like it is today. So if you look very, very carefully at the labellum, you should be able to see the circle encircling the column in the middle. That's when it was an Encyclia. It's not an Encyclia anymore. It's a Prosthechea, which refers to a Greek word, I think it's prostheke or prostheke, which is some kind of appendage at the back of the column. Now I must confess I've not been able to find this, even though I can find what it would be if it was an Encyclia, which of course is not an Encyclia, go figure. But whatever plant it is, it's certainly a lovely one and one which I enjoy growing. So what else have we got here? Well, these forests that they grow in are very dry. So you have these like onion shapes, these large onion shaped pseudo bulbs, and the leaves which are also very waxy and drought tolerant. In the wild it's pollinated by bees and by birds. And what's so good about it, as well as the scent, is that the blooms can last for over a month. And this is the first time I've had two spikes on it, because this was a division. And what happens with these, they get very, very congested, and being able to divide them is something that will give the plant a little bit of a boost. So it's definitely recommended to divide them, because they can become a very unruly clump, I believe. They're very, very easy to grow, as everybody tells me. So I can stop congratulating myself on my care for these, because practically anyone can grow them, but they certainly are absolutely beautiful. As far as the scent goes, to me it's like a vanilla coconut scent, but I did read someone that said it smelled like sewer gas to them. I don't know what kind of sewers they have where they live, but if our sewers smelled like this, I'd spend a lot of time down there. Okay, so I'll put the plant back now in its spot, just over here. So what I'm going to do is we'll zoom in over here and we'll have a look at the plant in its place and a little chat about it, about the care conditions that I provide for it and the kind of accepted wisdom on what kind of requirements it needs in order to bloom well. And just while I'm here, I've just noticed, I nearly fell over looking at it, I have a Dendrobium farmeri. I don't know if you can see it, that's just come into bloom down there. Isn't that lovely? I must have a little look at that, grab that out in a little while. You might be more interested in that actually. First blooming for me, so I'm really pleased with that. But no, we're talking about the Prosthechea radiata. So let's have a look, and if you're interested in a plant that's really easy to grow and has like a high tolerance for varying conditions, then this is it. So it's classed as a hot to cool growing orchid, or a warm to cool growing orchid. So that means that it's reasonably happy with temperatures up to 30 degrees Celsius. That's obviously during the day in some of the summer months, and then at night it doesn't mind going down to 10 to 12 degrees. Again, during some of those months in the year. It'll go a little bit lower during winter time. So that's the kind of accepted wisdom on it. However, my conditions here in winter, it has a minimum of 12 degrees because that's what I heat the greenhouse to, and that doesn't shift, so it stays the same all through the winter months. So it can be 12 degrees for like a whole 3, maybe 4 months. So one of the key things was this amplitude, this difference between the day and the nighttime temperatures, but for me that's not the case. It's clearly not getting that amplitude during the winter months. It'll get it a little bit in autumn, it'll get it a little bit in springtime, but obviously as summer comes then it's going to get that more and more. But it's not, you know, it doesn't bother it one little bit. This is the second, maybe third blooming for me. It's been quite happy without that amplitude and without those temperatures that it so-called absolutely needs. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. It's obviously one of these very happy orchids that is, and it is a species by the way, it's a very happy species orchid that is not that fussy when it comes to what it supposedly wants. Certainly completely different to its natural habitat, but it's quite happy to tootle along in my created environment here. So let's talk about humidity. It generally wants high humidity. We said before, didn't we, that its natural habitat is, although it's a dry forest, it's apparently very humid as well. Dry as in it doesn't rain that much, but it's very, very humid. It doesn't rain that much during those summer months, I should point out. It gets that here in the UK. We tend to be pretty high in humidity all through the year really. Yes, there are some times in summer when we get it lower, but that tends only to be for a little while, and I keep the humidity fairly high in here with a fogger anyway, so that's not a problem. As far as the media goes, it really can be left in a very, very free draining media. It does not want to sit in water, it does not want any kind of moisture retentive media. It wants something that will allow those roots to dry out, because apparently they are prone to rot, which is, for me anyway, quite a surprise to learn that, because you know, usually in my greenhouse, if an orchid is prone to rot, then I absolutely guarantee that it will rot. Usually, in this case, I seem to have got away with it. I have got it, like I say, in a very free draining media. It's purely in bark. It's raised up on stones, as you can see down there. It doesn't sit in the water, and I very often forget to water it, which does also kind of fit in with its generally accepted requirements. It wants like a quick wet dry cycle, a bit like a cattleya. So one thing I have noticed here, just picking it up for a moment just so I can show you, that these pseudo bulbs do have this ability to shrivel up if they've not had the water. Remember, they can, during those summer months, be treated as a really drought tolerant plant, and those pseudo bulbs will shrivel up, and when I water it, it will plump out again. The new pseudo bulbs are really, really smooth. There's no wrinkles in them at all. It's like a really tactile pseudo bulb when they come out. You can see loads of new growths on it, and you can see the kind of roots that we have underneath. And I think it's probably ready for a repot. It's been in here 2 or 3 years now. And like I mentioned earlier, after a while they do tend to benefit from a division. Now, obviously this isn't a massive plant, and I'm going to keep it going a little bit more, but you can see it's going off the edge of the pot there, so I'm going to have to do something about it probably during the winter months. It is apparently a good candidate for mounting, although you will have to water it rather a lot if you do mount it. And as far as light goes, some sources say that it will even take direct sunlight, although having experienced that through glass, you know, I've even had succulents and cacti, they give up the ghost through the glass, so I wouldn't like to try that. Mine has a reasonably bright spot, reasonably sunny spot, about as sunny as I can give it without letting them get burned, because obviously I've got a lot of plants in here and they don't all appreciate that much sun, especially in summer. But again, its tolerance is such that it doesn't mind the kind of light that I can give it. As far as fertilizer goes, well, I give it rain mix. I give all my orchids rain mix. Google it if you're not sure what that is. It apparently has all the nutrients that most orchids need. And then during the winter months, like I do with most of my orchids, I don't bother fertilizing them anywhere near as much, which just happens to suit what this wants, because it has a bit of a rest through the winter. You can even just rely on misting it occasionally during the winter. Certainly don't give it loads of water, because that's when you're going to get the root rot. So there we have it, the otherwise known as Encyclia radiata, now known as Prosthechea radiata. So what kind of things does it have that makes it good to grow? Well, it's easy to grow, it's very fragrant. I enjoy the fragrance, some people might not. It enjoys being divided. It certainly has plenty of tolerance for temperatures, for watering, for light levels. What's not to like? The one thing that I think that some people might not quite enjoy as much about it, and tell me in the comments here if this is you, and that's that it isn't that rare. So we're talking about a plant that's easy to grow and isn't that rare. In the UK it's fairly rare unless you're an orchid grower, but put in the comments, would it put you off that this isn't a rare plant? Would it put you off that this is very easy, considered easy, and nobody would look at you and think, gosh, you're a really good orchid grower? They would simply think, well, yeah, it'll grow anywhere, this. Is that you? For me, well, as long as I can smell this fantastic scent, I don't really mind. I love the plant. I love the fact that it's going to be really tolerant for whatever I throw at it. I love the fact that it'll grow and it'll thrive in my greenhouse. So that's enough for me. I suppose there's a little bit of that in me that says I want to grow something a little bit unusual. Otherwise, I wouldn't grow tropical plants in a temperate climate, would I? So let me know what you think in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, if you've got anything out of it at all, please give me a thumbs up. It really helps the channel. And for now, I'll see you on the next one. Bye.